Hi, Bob Canote, Camp Chaos Chronicles, and this is the third in the series on the Texas XJS. Last time what you saw was us assembling the engine, and as far as I know, everything's ready to go here in terms of giving it the best shot possible to make it run. We've replaced all the fuel lines, we've done all the wiring repairs that we needed to do, and some that we weren't expecting, but as far as I know, this thing's ready to go. So in preparation for actually starting it, what we did is we took a couple gallons of gasoline, dumped it in here, and noticed almost immediately that it was running out of the bottom of the vehicle just about as fast as it was going in the top. We've got a fuel leak, and what I noticed as soon as I opened the trunk was fuel was pouring out from underneath the fuel tank. Now, the issue here is this mat right here. That's intended to protect the tank, but what happens is if you've got any kind of moisture coming into the tank, this thing absorbs it and holds it. And what it results in is that right there. Now, I've actually cleaned that up quite a bit. That's just a pile of rust that we need to address, and I got a special paint called P.3. It's a multi-step process that deals with that sort of thing. That's bad enough, but here is the problem. This section of the fuel tank right here. Now, as you'll notice, we've got some perforations in this section of the fuel tank, okay? This is really the worst part of the tank. It would be an easy process to fabricate another piece, weld it in. Couple of things. First of all, we want to have a sealer available, and also we want to let this dry out a little bit for a while. Welding, fuel tank, normally words you don't want to use in the same sentence. So we're going to let this dry out a while, which kind of puts us behind schedule. But as luck would have it, we have the parts car, and the parts car gave us that. Dang it. That's a perfectly usable fuel tank. Although you will notice by the texture on the bottom, this one had the same issue, and it looked pretty extensive. And what they've done is they've taken some sort of preparation. I suspect it's the DevCon fuel tank sealer compound, which works really well, and troweled it on there, and it had 5 gallons worth of skanky fuel in it after sitting in my shed for about 4 years. So that's a good tank, and that's the one that we're going to use. Now, I know we're trying to make this simulate as much as possible what you could do at home, and probability is you're not going to have a parts car, but we could have fixed this one. We could have used the DevCon preparation in order to fix this one as well, but I want to do it right on this particular tank because I've got another car that's going to go into. Now, dealing with this mess right here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this stuff right here. Going to leave that in there to protect the firewall from the spare tire, but you can see we've got some pretty extensive rust over there that we got to deal with. So how I'm going to deal with that is the process that I started already. I've taken a putty knife and I've started to clean this stuff out of here. But using a series of implements like a wire brush and a rotary wire brush and a grinder and so forth, I'm going to get all the loose stuff off. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this product right here, P.3. I've used this a lot on my other projects. I've run my track car through a couple of gravel traps at racetracks with this stuff on suspension components. It is tough. The other thing that it does is it grabs onto rust. As long as it's not loose or you know, flaky on the surface, and as long as it's dry, this stuff works great. 3-part process. You first of all degrease it with a marine clean product. You then use another product to etch it, and then you just brush it right on, and it works really, really well, like I said. Other things that are going to get this preparation, right here you can see the battery tray. It's also very rusty, but that's not because of this issue up here. This is because batteries kind of puke out noxious, corrosive stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all this stuff out of here and clean it up and apply the same paint. And the next battery we're going to get is going to be vented. And if this does not already have a hole in the trunk where you can pass a vent tube out, that's what we're going to get, because it looks like batteries are an issue back there. And the fact is, every one of these cars that I have also has this issue. So we're going to take proactive measures in order to make sure that that doesn't happen again. You can see that the back end of the car is all back together. Got the used fuel tank out of the parts car in there. I also redid all of the hoses, because checking the date code on these, they were made the year before this car was actually produced. So while they were in better shape than the ones up front, it was time for them to be replaced too. You can also see that we got the battery in here. All we got to do is hook that thing up, turn the key, and see what happens. I'm getting pretty excited. Well, I've done everything up front here that I said I needed to do. Got the fuel injection sorted out, both the hoses and the wiring, and cleaned it up a little bit, and checked a few things that needed to be checked. The distributor, I got that rewired, and took care of the trunk stuff, the leaky fuel tank and the wiring and hoses and so forth. Put a battery in it, and you know what? I got good news and I got bad news. What do you want first?
Well, I always like the good news first.
Okay, the good news is...
Because, like, what did you have to do to fix that wiring for that distributor?
Oh, that was easy. The little rodent had eaten it all the way up to the blue connector. I just split the connector and pulled the wires out and soldered on new wires and RTV'd the whole thing back together again. Same thing with a plug. Well, thank you.
Looks good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's some of my best work right there. Now, the good news is I hooked up the battery and the car just came to life.
Bad news is that
bad news is the key wasn't on when it was doing that. Lights, buzzers, doing all the stuff that makes me kind of worried, but I'm sure Captain Electron is going to look at this and see just a great way to show everybody how Captain Electron earned his bars. So I'll hook up the battery, and you tell me when you get worried.
Well, it's smoke and fire.
Yeah, we'd like to catch it before then. Say when.
Go ahead.
But shall we turn the key? Did that side stay on? My side didn't stay.
The buzzer goes off once you shut the doors. Now they're off. Oh, see, they come on, shut the door.
So normal so far in your world.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean,
Does the radio turn on? Radio's on.
oh, that must turn the antenna on. Is that the noise I'm hearing?
Hey, the antenna works.
What's that new noise?
See, that was the noise I was getting yesterday.
I would say it's a ground issue.
Okay.
You got a bad ground
All right.
someplace. Got to clean all the grounds.
Let's get on it. Now, it's been a while since I worked on a street XJS, because my car has a manual transmission, I don't have this feature. This is the pedal box right here, and this is the pivot for the brake pedal. And there's a little ramp that's welded onto the brake pedal that when you put your foot on the brake, the ramp goes away from this switch here, which has a plunger on it. So this plunger is allowed to go forward or inward, and that makes contact, which enables you to start the car. The theory here is that if we put these together, we will eliminate that function, and we can just start the car normally, whether it's our foot's on the brake or not. Tony, if you want to get in here, if the thing turns over, just give it a little bit of a crank. Because I would still really like to find a way of getting some oil to those bearings before we get started. Yep. So there you go. Nothing? No. Okay. So basically, what we could do here is to see if we've got current to this point right here. Yeah. Just turn the key and see if we've got 12 volts. If we're not getting 12 volts, then it's got to be on this side, between here and the switch. Yep. Mm-hmm. It's not our relay over there. Okay, that red and white wire there?
This one?
Yeah, that goes down to the starter.
Okay.
So if we pull this, and turn the key, we should be able to see if we got 12 volts or not, right? Ready? Yep. Ignition switch, load relay, starter alternator, starter relay.
Wire goes to the starter relay.
Mm-hmm.
It comes off of this right terminal post.
I'm encouraged because Tony seems to be on the trail of a solution to our problem here. Yesterday when I plugged everything in and started to get all the whistles and bells blowing before I even started turning the key, I must say that I was a little concerned. But Captain Electron is on the case. Just wondering what I was going to be using these butt connectors for at some point. Okay, wrap it around here. Ready? Yep. So we're getting power to there. Yep. So the relay isn't doing anything with it. Whoa, what'd you do? Okay.
What? What are you looking at me like that for?
I'm excited. Aren't you excited?
I don't know.
Or you've just gotten jaded.
Jaded.
From 17 years as a Ford technician. 20, okay. I think you can get jaded in 17.
I was jaded after 3. That wire probably goes through that lockout, and then it goes down to the neutral safety switch, because it wants,
we can tell if we've got...
You know, the other thing that we didn't try is we tried it in park, we didn't try it in neutral.
Let's try it in neutral.
Let's see if they have power at that height.
It's in neutral. Ready?
Yep. Our goal is to try to get this thing to start, right?
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get, if there's a wiring issue there, get that sorted out. Because like I said,
before we go ahead and do any protracted spinning of this thing, I would like to be able to transfuse some oil to the main bearings, or to the, basically to the crankshaft. Because this thing's been sitting for at least 3 years, and it's just bone dry down there. Yeah.
And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pull the turntable for the throttle in order to do that, because I made a wrench to turn out the oil pressure sender so I can put a fitting in there and inject it at that point. But it is so tight that I'm going to have to actually get a wrench in there and get a straight pull on it in order to get that thing loose. Well, no, that's not the point. The point is to replace the oil pressure sender with a fitting that I can hook up to some Jaguar D12 prying instrument, which is essentially a garbage sprayer, put a couple quarts of oil in it, and inject it in the engine. And I can't do that because it's impossible for me to get it out with my handy Jaguar D12 oil pressure sender wrench that I made for that purpose.
You didn't listen to a word I said, did you? Ready? Nope. Well, we do have another relay in the bucket. I think we do have another starter relay. I got R22As coming out of my ears. Does this look like what we need? Okay, I'm going to neutral.
Can we try it? See if it still cranks over.
Boom. All right, so we got a working starter. We got a working ignition. Now we need to see if we've got a working fuel pump.
All right. Well,
Before we try to start the thing, what I'd like to do is see if we can get fuel all the way to this regulator right here
yep.
to maximize the probability of this thing's going to run.
Yep. Yeah, make sure you have pump pressure. Fuel injection ain't gonna work.
So let's go and do a quick check. So the positive is the big one on this side right here. See what I mean?
I can generally tell too, just if you crank it over. Ooh, it's hot. It's really hot. You touched it?
No. That's where I spent all day yesterday. Okay. And let me turn it off. Actually, it's off right now. Okay. All right. So that's not right.
Driver got distracted and as a result got in an accident. In the sky to shoot his self-defense, lost his memory at any expense. And then the witnesses went on to describe that in the window was a beauty guy on the radio, TV, and the press release.
Okay, so I get the pump installed, I get that ground terminal soldered back on, maybe get a little more gas in it, because I've only got two gallons in it. How about up front? Everything up front is pretty much ready to go, right?
It turns over.
It turns over.
And we got spark.
And we got spark. Big day here at Camp Chaos. What we're going to try to do is get this thing, the Texas XJS, started. Now, the last couple of episodes, we've done things like rebuild the fuel injection harness, replace all the fuel lines, do everything that we know how to do in order to maximize the probability that this thing's going to fire right away. And what you see over here is my oil transfusion device. Now, the reason that I do this is because in American V8, you've got the possibility or the capability of taking a drill and using a special tool and spinning the oil pump up and getting oil to the bearings before the engine actually starts. This engine doesn't have that capability. The oil pump is on the front of the crankshaft. So in order to spin the oil pump, you got to spin the crankshaft, which kind of defeats the purpose of the exercise anyway. So what we're doing here is we're just using our regular garden sprayer, replace the hose with a piece of vinyl, taken the sending unit out, the oil pressure sending unit out, put a fitting in there, and what's happening now is that this oil, by virtue of pressure, I need to pump this up a little bit more. By virtue of the pressure in the sprayer, we are pumping oil down to the bearings, up to the cams, at the top of the engine, and just generally maximizing the possibility that this thing is going to be protected when we turn it over. So as soon as we get a couple of quarts of oil in it, we're going to give it a shot, see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and turn it on.
Fire in the hole.
Yep.
Hear the pump run.
Yep. That's it for the oil.
There's something coming. I can smell gas.
It's not here. Oh, there it is. Shut it off. Okay, so you got fuel at the rail.
That's pretty good. I can smell gas before you could see it.
You smell like gas before you can see it. Okay, and we're going to do it one more time. Make sure the rail is full.
All right.
Hold it. Now I suppose we should blow that off a little bit. So now here's my special wrench that I made for removing and installing the oil pressure sending unit on a Jaguar V12. This is made of 3 18mm wrenches that I bought down at Menards, a home supply place here in Minnesota, and welded them up into this configuration. I'm sure that this stuff is available already made up on Snap-on if you're made out of money, but this thing works just fine. Let's just double check that. Do you have the test light out?
Yeah, I do. So go ahead and hit the key. Yeah, it works.
Again?
Mm-hmm. Just want to make sure I power up here.
You gotta be kidding. Give me some RPM. We've only got about 25 psi.
There's a song called Sing It Solid with me.
is our smoke issue. Yeah, there's. Did you give me another digital ball on the other knee? Well, a little bit disappointing. We determined that once we got it running, and it runs reasonably well for not having any kind of a tune on it, it does have a rod knock. So that is sort of a terminal thing. At this point, the wise man would probably park this in the shed and use it for parts. And that's probably what's going to happen. But who knows? We may come up with a project this winter where this car is exactly what we need. There's really no shortage of engines around this place, and we are kind of in the Jaguar parts business, so there's no reason why we can't resurrect this engine should we choose to do so. So that will be a decision to be made later. So if you like what you see, subscribe, like us, and follow us on social media. This is Bob Canote from Camp Chaos. See ya.